Welcome everyone. This is our weekly Q&A. Today is Halloween, in case you're catching this on the replay. So what I wanted to focus on, because it's going to be top of mind for everyone, is tactics and things for Halloween candy, things to be aware of, not just tonight, but kind of over the next few weeks. So first and foremost, just know that you're going to eat some candy. Don't try and restrict yourself to like, oh, I'm not going to have any. Like, it's going to happen whether you realize it or not. Something's going to be unconsciously grabbed and munched on if it's out and available. And if you're giving candy to trick-or-treaters, it's out and available. So don't go into tonight with an unrealistic expectation of not having any candy. Plan properly. If you haven't had lunch yet, your dinner, snacks, minimize some of the carbohydrate intake so you have some room later for those. Especially dinner. We always say, base your meal around a protein, your veggie, and then you can have your carbohydrate. Tonight's dinner, you may want to skip the carbohydrate and let the candy essentially take that role for those calories. The only time that the candy is going to get you in huge amounts of trouble is when it's on top of what you're already eating. That's when it becomes extra and excessive calories, that if it's beyond what you need to maintain your current body function and weight, that's when it starts going into storage. So be aware, plan appropriately. Practice some control in the sense of how much you have. I'm not saying don't have any. I'm saying like maybe you don't need to have, a large amount. Just enough, fill in whatever calories your carb would have been for the evening. If you usually have a dessert, let those calories balance and you'll be good. I'd hate to say try and move more, walk more. Obviously, if you've got kids, you're probably going to go out and walk some. But realistically, that mile or 2 miles that you may walk tonight for trick-or-treating, it's immediately going to be undone by 2 pieces of candy. So don't have that expectation of, oh, I'm walking so I can have so much more, because realistically, with what you expend, it's nowhere near equal. So don't fool yourself, be realistic, be reasonable with the expectations of how much candy per calorie you can actually fit in and not put yourself over. Make the appropriate adjustments with your meals the rest of the day. Same thing with your snacks. Go more protein and fiber heavy in the form of vegetables, and that'll leave you some room for carbohydrates from the candies. After tonight, things to kind of be aware of and think about. One is, how good are you at practicing self-control? If you're one that's low, keeping the candy around may not be the best idea for you. So finding ways to donate it, give it away, start throwing handfuls out at kids as the night gets closer so you don't have as much left, is a big thing to kind of look at there. If we're going to keep it around, things that we want to be aware of and think about. First and foremost, you should always have a plan of how the consumption of that is going to fit into your daily intake, your calorie intake. Because again, it's only extra when it becomes extra. If you eat everything that you would typically and normally eat, and then we add some candy on top of that, that's how it becomes extra. That's how we start seeing that major weight gain come on from it. So if we know we're going to have it, plan for it, make appropriate adjustments to your food choices and intake. Again, your candy is going to be mostly carbohydrates, so that's where it's going to come from. So that's what you should be removing from the meal designs that you're having. Still leave the protein, still leave your fibery vegetables. Let some room for the carbohydrate come from the candy if that's what you want to have. Other things to be aware of is be mindful of accidental habit creation. And what I mean by this, because I've been hugely guilty of this myself, you've got the candy around, The easiest time to get into it is late at night after the kids are in bed. So you have some candy. If you can keep it to just one piece, you're stronger than I am. But you do this, and the challenge becomes, if this becomes a nightly thing, every night we have some candy. Next night we have some candy. Next night we have some candy. This lasts as long as the candy lasts. And now, we've had a few weeks of creating this habit of late night sweets. And especially this time of year is when it gets to be a real issue because, okay, the candy runs out. Other times of year, the candy runs out, no big deal, we're out of candy. Now the candy runs out, and now we're into other Christmas and holiday sweets are available. So now there's other things to fill that void. So we keep on having some sort of late night sweet, late night sweet, late night sweet. Now, come New Year's, we're looking at, a good 8 to 12 weeks of a habit of having a late night sweet or a midday sweet, whatever time of day it is that you're having it, that is now a habit and expectation that we have to undo and retrain out of our habit, routine, and expectation. And that's, that's hard. That's another obstacle. And, even if you are planning and arranging for it in your calories, that makes it a little easier in the sense from a caloric standpoint. We're not just adding on more. But getting over that expectation of that sweet at this time, day in, day out, becomes a hard thing to overcome because now we're still expecting it even though there's no sweets around. So then we start getting into the pit trap of buying something else sweet, having other things, and keeping that habit going rather than just not letting it creep in the first place. So a thing to be mindful of is, again, don't accidentally fall into that accidental unconscious habit of I'm having a sweet at this time every single day. Skip some days, go a couple stretches without it. That way it doesn't become a new expectation, a new habit that you have to overcome when you want to start making changes again and getting back in line. Because having the sweets all the time isn't a great thing for our metabolic health. Even if you are accounting for the calories, the concentrated sweets from those sugars has a big impact on our blood sugar and therefore insulin resistance. And insulin resistance has an impact on a lot of different health issues, primarily diabetes that everyone's familiar with. But it can also impact a lot of other metabolic functions. It's been shown to be a factor for Alzheimer causation because of the inflammation insulin resistance causes. So having that as a habit is not a great thing to get into, so be mindful of not accidentally falling into that daily sweet expectation. If you are going to have sweets, I do recommend not last thing at night, just because all of that sugar load right before we go to bed, that it's going to have more detrimental metabolic impact on us, rather than if you have it earlier in the day where you have the chance to do some things, you're awake, you're moving, you're doing activities or mental demands, you have a little more chance to burn it off. And because we're awake and moving, there's more metabolic factors to help keep that blood sugar impact more balanced. Whereas if we're eating a bunch of sugar going straight to bed, all it does is spike, and now our metabolic functions have to try and rebalance it. And that's what really pushes that insulin sensitivity issue for us. So just some things to be mindful of, tactics and things to keep it an idea. And just remember, nothing's extra unless it's truly extra. If you make plans for it, allow for it, you can still have some fun without having to feel guilty about it too. So keep that going. Enjoy your Halloween. And if you have any other questions, throw them in the comments. We can discuss them next week. In the meantime, remember to stay persistent in your consistent pursuit of health.